I still don't know exactly when it started feeling wrong. Only that one night, the air around me felt thinner, heavier, like something had already happened, and my body knew before my mind did. At the time, I thought it was just a gut feeling. Being a woman on a college campus teaches you to notice footsteps behind you, reflections in dark windows, the way shadows linger longer than they should. You learn to catalog pauses in conversation, patterns in passing strangers. You tell yourself it's nothing. You always tell yourself it's nothing, because acknowledging the alternative is exhausting. This all happened during my sophomore year at a university in the Northeast. I won't say which one. Even now, I'm careful about details. I was an English major, the kind who color-coded notes, showed up early, asked questions, and prided herself on discipline. I wanted law school after graduation, so grades mattered more than almost anything else. I wasn't exceptional, but I was methodical. Professors seemed to notice that, and for a while, it felt like enough. That semester, I enrolled in an upper-level course on English Romanticism, a small class, maybe 25 students. Most were juniors and seniors, accustomed to fading into chairs and fading out of conversation. The professor gave lectures, but the real interaction happened in discussion sections led by the teaching assistant. His name was Roar. That was all anyone ever called him. I never knew if it was his first name or last, and I never asked. He was in his late 20s, lanky, awkward in a way that made him feel like he didn't entirely belong in the space he occupied. His energy was quiet, but off, like someone still clinging to youth that had already slipped through his fingers. Discussions were slow, long stretches of silence, staring at desks, fingers tapping, pens rolling between hands. Roar hated silence. You could see it in the tension in his jaw, the way he shifted, the nervous glance around the room. Eventually, he would start calling on students at random, pressing them to speak. The room felt tighter, smaller. Even without words, it was uncomfortable. There was one student who always managed to break that tension. Luke. Tall, brown hair, presence that wasn't loud, but impossible to ignore. He was in one of the more recognized fraternities, and he spoke with ease, timing his humor perfectly. When he contributed, it wasn't performative, it was natural. The class seemed lighter when he was around. I spoke up too. Participation mattered for my grade, so I became one of the few voices Roar would regularly engage with. Slowly, discussions became predictable. Luke would jump in, I would follow, a couple of others might contribute. Everyone else remained quiet. Roar seemed to appreciate it. He'd nod at my points, sometimes expand on them. It felt validating, like he had seen something in me worth noticing. For my first essay, I wrote about ambiguity in Wordsworth's Tintern Abbey. Nothing groundbreaking, just thought out, precise. When I received it back, the margins were filled with comments, not corrections, engagement, consideration, questions that suggested he had read carefully, even thoughtfully. I remember feeling seen. That was when things began to shift. At first, it was subtle. Roar called on me more often, held eye contact longer than necessary, asked follow-up questions that drifted from academics into personal territory. I convinced myself it was normal. Teaching assistants notice students. They take a liking. Nothing to see here. But then the questions became more curious. What other classes I was taking, where I liked to study, how I spent my weekends. I answered politely, keeping everything vague, telling myself that academics sometimes blend into mentorship.
Around the same time, I began seeing Luke everywhere outside of class. Our Greek organizations overlapped constantly: mixers, parties, campus events. He was always present, leaning against walls, handing drinks, asking about classwork. It felt natural, easy. After a few weeks, he asked if I wanted to grab dinner. I said yes without hesitation. We went on a few dates, casual, pleasant. He was attentive, funny, uncomplicated. We began sleeping together, comfortable, easy. I wasn't head over heels. I liked him, but it didn't feel urgent. Nothing alarming, no red flags. One afternoon, after class, I was walking to my car when I saw Luke behind the lecture hall, smoking a cigarette with Roar. They were talking, like friends, familiar. It froze me for a moment. I hadn't known Luke smoked. I hadn't known they knew each other. When I asked Luke about it later, he laughed it off, said he wanted on Roar's good side for easier finals. I told him that was pathetic. He shrugged, said he preferred pathetic to a bad grade. I didn't think about it much after that. A few weeks later, I stayed at Luke's place. We fell asleep in front of a phone screen, something mindless playing quietly. I woke in the middle of the night. His phone was on. I noticed a video was playing, volume low. I picked it up, almost without thinking. I opened his photos. There were dozens. Some were harmless. Me walking across campus, studying in the library, sitting in class. Others made my stomach tighten. Taken from angles I didn't remember, taken when I wasn't aware. Intimate ones, ones I had sent him, others I never knew existed. I stared, frozen. I didn't wake him. I put the phone down, lay there, rigid, listening to his breathing, violated, embarrassed, uneasy. I told myself I was overreacting. Couples take photos. I probably agreed to some of these, or I thought I did. A week later, I tried again. He fell asleep faster than usual. I guessed his passcode, birthday reversed. I went deeper, messages, hidden files, deleted folders. That's when I found the number, unsaved. Weeks of messages, photos of me sent over and over, sometimes with words, sometimes silent. My hands shook. I almost dropped the phone. I documented everything, pictures, screenshots, notes. My vision blurred. I shook him awake, demanded to know who the number belonged to. He stammered, backup phone, redundancy, excuses collapsing with every word. I left, shoes in hand, door slamming behind me. The police got involved. Phones seized, statements taken. Luke confessed quickly. The number belonged to Roar. Payments exchanged, weeks of arrangement. Luke expelled, Roar fired. Legal consequences followed. None of it felt sufficient. None of it made what they took from me feel right. Time passed. I became a senior. I moved apartments. I told myself it was over. Then, a few weeks ago, I began noticing a car, a silver sedan, parked down the street from my new place, late at night. Not every night, just enough to notice. I never saw anyone enter or exit. By morning, it was gone. I told myself I was being paranoid. I had learned that skill. But last night, I glanced back as I stepped inside. The headlights were on, and for the first time, I was certain they were pointed directly at me.